Welcome back to Be Frank. We have been in a season of grief where we have spoken about how men do not cry. We've spoken about the silent moments. We've spoken about the challenges that we face in grief. We've even had Miss Deandra Fordwing walk us through her story, through the Red Bird story. And as we come to a close of this season, I believe it only makes sense that since we've been saying give your grief a voice, it only makes sense that we end this season with someone who will allow us and walk us through how to say more with your grief. And I'd like to welcome Miss JJ from Say More podcast.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you for, going through this whole painstaking adventure to be here. Before we go on, I just want you to give like a 60-second, 30-second brief about what Say More Podcast is about and what we're trying to achieve through Say More Podcast and To Be Frank.
Okay, so as Frank mentioned, my name is Miss JJ. I am the host of Say More Podcast. Say More Podcast is about relationships and about accountability in those relationships. So I talk a lot about friendships. I'm talking right now, preparing for familial relationships. So our part and our roles in those familial relationships. I will be talking about romantic relationships. There's always a ship, and ships are meant to take you somewhere.
Hopefully not Titanic.
Not Titanic. And sometimes even a Titanic, because certain things sometimes have to end.
Yeah.
And so getting comfortable with those ends and, in talking about grief, sometimes there is an end with grief. So I really appreciate the chance to come here and speak about that. But yeah, check my podcast out on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the previous episodes, one of the things I said was how you spoke about the heartbreaks of friendships. And, it gave me a personal reflection about, some friendships drawing boundaries, and you can still grieve,
Right.
but still draw a boundary.
Of course.
And I feel like because so many people do not want to grieve, they don't draw a boundary, or when they draw a boundary, they beat themselves up for it.
Yeah.
So I guess the question I had down here is, why do you think many of us, so besides that reason where, people tolerate things, why do you think many of us stay silent in our grief?
So the interesting part about the world we live in currently, people want to live in this very black and white, but we live in the gray. And so for me, when I spoke about those friendships and even myself personally having to grieve some of those, I had to think about, was it successful? Was it not successful? Just because something ends doesn't mean it wasn't necessarily successful. True. Sometimes the season has ended, right? And it closes a chapter and you go to another chapter. But for me, I think it's difficult for people to, grieve and grieve openly because people grieve differently.
Yeah.
And so people sometimes do that to avoid the judgment. Yeah. They don't want to be looked at like, well, you're grieving wrong. And what is grieving wrong?
That's the thing. I guess that's the same thing for the last podcast. Is like, when a man is crying, that's grieving wrong.
Yeah, apparently. Why? Why are you crying? What's wrong with you? You're not a man. And I remember the first time seeing my dad cry. My brother had a seizure, and Daddy couldn't do anything about it. He's not a medical professional, and we called the ambulance, and my brother went to the hospital. And I never thought less of my dad for crying. Like, that's his son. That's your child. It's your heart beating outside of your chest. And so it never occurred to me that he was not a man because he cried. Yeah. So, and I mean, my father was a tough dad, but he was also very loving. And I mean, there's 6 of us. I think all of us experienced him very differently.
Yeah.
And I think as a parent, you think you're doing something equitably. But I never thought about daddy crying and me saying, well, he ain't a real dad, because you have feelings. Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, I don't have any. Just so everybody's aware.
She says that. She says that, but she does.
I'm very empathetic. I can sympathize.
But you always say something. You don't have feelings. You have emotions.
Yeah, you can have emotions, just don't let them have you. Like, I think
Mm,
people have a lot of feelings about a lot of things, and everything isn't a thing. And I say more about that because I allow people to be in the space they're in. That doesn't mean I have to endure it. So that's a
mm,
boundary for me. It's like when you just are just
yeah.
feelings all the time. Like, that's not how I emote and that's not how I operate, but I allow you to do that.
Mm,
Right? But I set boundaries for myself.
yeah. So it's like more of that because you said something earlier. It's like it's more of that gray
Hmm.
where you're not black and white to say I don't agree with this,
Yeah.
so don't do it.
Right. And I think people don't understand me acknowledging and accepting you does not necessarily mean agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are looking for someone to agree with you, you're probably going about it the wrong way.
Mm,
Um, in that if they don't agree with you, then what? Like
mm-hmm.
what happens then?
Mm,
Like, I still need to grieve, or I still need to make this adjustment or this move. If I say to my partner, I say to my friend, I say to my boys, yo, I need to do X, and they're like, okay. Okay doesn't necessarily mean agree. Okay could just be, I respect that that's your decision, and
yeah.
just moving on from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so you encourage people to say more a lot of
Absolutely.
times. And when it comes to grief, from like a mom who has boys and then being surrounded with guys,
Hmm.
what does say more look like?
Say more for me is we are now, or what I've been experiencing through social media, through conversations, are a lot of conversations around not centering men, women not centering men in their
Mm,
lives. I don't know how to do that. And it's not from a romantic perspective.
mm,
I've centered men in my life because men have been very important in my life.
mm,
My dad is the first man that I centered life around,
mm,
then my brothers, then my husband, and then my sons.
mm,
I'm a boy mom. I don't have anything but men around me. But those men, um, my dad taught me how I should receive love and what love from a man looks like or should look like.
mhm.
I've watched my brothers parent their sons.
And seeing how that.
Um, Similarly, only one of my brothers has daughters, so there's like
It's
20
like a whole.
grandkids, and there's 17 of them are boys. So, my youngest brother has two, and my sister actually has the other girl. But I've watched those men love on other men
Mm,
and embrace them and show feelings and show emotion,
yeah,
and still be strong.
yeah.
I've watched my husband, you know, our son, middle son is 17, and watched him watch him watch our son
Yeah.
and just see all of the
The
things, the love
pride,
and
the
the pride
emotion.
and fear sometimes because black men in
Yeah.
America. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to not center men in my life. And I say that from a positive perspective. I know I've heard it and it's more negative and more around a romantic thing, but
Mm-hmm.
um, just don't romanticize what somebody is. I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that others shouldn't do that, but for me, men have been very positive, so I haven't had an issue
Yeah.
centering them.
It's interesting you say that because it's like you've seen the emotions of men come in and express it, whereas like I'm on the opposite end of it
Mm-hmm.
where my emotions were, should I say, nurtured
Mm-hmm.
by the women in my life, right? It's like I saw my mom break down. I had to see my mom being strong. I had to see my mom raising me, and you know, not say my dad wasn't helping, but my
Mm-hmm.
mom was more present
Yeah.
in my life, and my aunties, and seeing so many experiences. I had to go through the negative side of emotions, saying I don't want to express my emotion. Mommy is crying, or auntie is crying, or this is what they're going through. I have to have that toxic masculinity
Yeah.
until it got broken down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for people that feel like centering men or giving men a voice is again like negative because some people say, why will you center men? You're an independent person. why should you give a man that space? If a man wants to talk, he should talk.
Okay.
Right? Some people, yeah, and I agree. Like
Mhm.
I always say this, your journey to healing starts with yourself.
Fair.
But also, how do other people who are afraid to give that space to people who are grieving, not just even men, like people who are grieving, to say more? How do you give them the platform to say more without creating a space where they're reliant on you, or without creating a space where you're diminishing yourself?
So there's a lot there to unpack. So I think I always try to give people space to say what they need to say, even if it's not necessarily what I want to hear, what I care to hear, because contrary to my own belief, everything is not about me. but um, but and my father calls me out of the kids, I'm the egomaniac. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Um, so I like I said, I try to lead with empathy. I try to listen with an empathetic ear. I think sometimes when people stifle other people, they're trying to tampen down something in themselves. That's my opinion.
Feels like a
JJ is not,
projection thing.
JJ's a corporate girly. She is not a therapist, but I've lived a lot of life and had a lot of experiences. And when someone is adamant about quieting and like, don't do that, and don't let nobody see, and don't, it's like, well, why?
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to therapy enough, and if you go to, or if you have enough conversations, you got to understand that that's not about you. That's really, like you said, it's projections about someone else. Giving someone room to speak costs you nothing. And again, when you start to set boundaries, if they're saying something that one either you don't agree with or what have you, you can allow them and and pause it. And Frank, I appreciate that. That's your that's your opinion. I'm uncomfortable with the conversation. I need to step away. With regard to grief, there's no playbook. I lost my mother 5 years ago. I'm still grieving in many ways. It's a gap that can never be filled, and people are very well intended. JJ, when it happened, JJ, you need anything? What do you need? How do you feel? I think probably the most irritating question was, how do you feel? And
I'm
it's
going to
like,
say something about that.
it's like,
Just
what you mean? What you mean? And again, for me, words mean things, and I know everyone was well intended. But until you have experienced this kind of loss, you could never understand what that feeling is. And I could never describe it to you. Those of us that have joined this fraternity of lost parents, it's almost an unspoken thing. You don't really have to say anything.
Yeah, like you know
what it is. And there's no words to it. There may be sound to it. It may be a scream. It may be a cry. It could be a lot of things. So people are very well intended. But what I've tried to do when someone is hurting from loss, let me know what you need. Let me know when you need it. I'm always here. And for the most part, it's worked for me with my circle and even people that maybe I've only been in relationship or just known casually. Let me know what you need.
Yeah.
When you need it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you need it now. And I'll get a text. I sent someone a text the other day they had lost a cousin, and I said, just thinking about you, because I really was. I was just thinking about her. And her brother, actually. Her brother was like, why I don't have your number in my phone? I was like, why are we making it about this right now?
Listen. Yeah. You don't gotta share it, because that's me sharing a lot of time with other people. So
okay, sorry.
yeah.
But like for me, it really is just being present for those people,
Yeah.
not the way you want, but the way they need.
That's powerful.
And that's what I think it is.
That's powerful because a lot of people only know how to show up in the way that they think you need.
Correct.
Because what you said with people asking how do you feel, it's so funny you actually said that because um and I know I didn't tell you this earlier. This is a big bump.
Oh, this is a surprise.
But it's today was when my cousin was buried, right? And I did say this. I did say this on the pod on one of the episodes. In case you guys didn't catch on, go listen to it.
For sure.
The day I found out the news, and I told JJ, she pulled me aside and asked me this question: "What do you need?" So JJ, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very
Thank
welcome.
you so. Like that day was a lot for me, and for you to check in, for you to go out of your way, not to say nobody else cared,
Of course.
but to have someone who understood what you were going through and wouldn't try to force you to go through it,
Yeah.
right? The reason why I said it was funny is because literally hours ago, this morning, or last night actually, I told someone that, hey, tomorrow's my cousin's funeral, and then she proceeds to say, "How do you feel?" I'm like, how am I supposed to feel? Like,
how am I supposed to even answer that question?
And that's why I said, like, I took my patience because, like you said, people are very well intended, right? So I was like, how would you want me to answer this question?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and she did explain. She was saying, well, I want to know, like, do you feel heavy? Like, it's a lot of emotion.
I feel all of the things.
So I can't,
all of the time.
I can't really tell you.
Yes.
And I have another friend who said, well, it looks like you're going through a lot, so I'll give you space. I'm like, I didn't ask for space, but if you want to give it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because, again, to your point, a lot of people only know how to show up, how they want you to, should I say, go through it or heal, rather than help you go through your journey.
Yeah, I think with your friend saying, I'll give you space, I think that's also important because, again, people are well intended. Sometimes you're not when you're in grief and in the process of grieving, you're not necessarily always able to process what someone is saying to you, right? And I think so many things are happening, to your point of having all of the emotions and all the feelings. There are no words to what I'm experiencing. So I often talk about, I don't have feelings, I have experiences. I tell people, this is how I've experienced you. Because what I find, because you grieve a certain way, I grieve a certain way, someone else grieves a certain way, they all look different. Here's my experience of you. You can dismiss feelings. People dismiss feelings quite a bit. Well, you shouldn't feel like that. What you mean? What?
How you gonna tell me?
How you gonna tell me how I should feel?
Yeah.
Everyone's feelings are valid, even though you may not agree with them. But when I say to you, here, you said this to me, and here was what I experienced from that. Phrasing it a little differently helps or attempts to help people truly see it from your perspective. I know you were well intended because you said X. This is how it landed. Here's how I experienced that. Right? So it is still feelings, but the word feelings for some reason instantly triggers like dismissal or this whole pity thing. So it's like, I don't.
Like you're being a victim or trying to be manipulated.
Correct. And more oftentimes than not, it isn't. It's just the word that we use. This is what I feel. And so I've applied this professionally and personally, that I will say, here's my experience of you. Here's how I experienced that when you said X. And it gives people pause because they don't, that's not normal vernacular to say that. People waiting for you to say feelings so they can be like, you're wrong. And you shouldn't feel that way.
Oh, so like changing your lingo.
Absolutely, changing the language, but also using, words mean things and saying more intentionally, right? Like, I think a lot of times you're just kind of saying things and in hopes that people understand. So you often hear people say, well, what I meant to say was, I don't meant to say anything. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And I think a lot about what I'm going to say prior to saying it. Even now, I'm like, when you asked me before, I was like really thinking about what it is I want to say and how I want you and your audience to receive it versus, well, what she meant by that? And again, will everybody get my intention and get my meaning? Maybe not, but my goal is to be as clear as possible. And I think when you talk about feelings, there's so many things that are happening. It can't always be clear.
Yeah. No, I like what you said about being intentional with saying more, because that's going to be another question, which is like, we're encouraging people to give voice to their grief. We're encouraging people to process their grief. You're encouraging men to cry about it and all of this and speak more, say more about it. But then sometimes you could say more, but you're not saying what you actually want to say. You're just throwing words all over the place.
Word salad.
Exactly, you know?
Yeah.
And so how besides knowing how to phrase your words, how does someone who is grieving or someone who's in pain, especially because if someone is feeling emotional, they word vomit.
Sure.
So how do you take that time to say more intentionally to get your point across without just branching from the goal?
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot that I draw from my work, right? And like engaging with people in corporate. And I remember a young lady saying to me, I'm very vocal. So, and I was just like, people can be vocal and say nothing, right? That's never my intention, to be vocal to your point about a word salad or word vomit. And people walk away like,
What
what's
did
she
you
talking
just
about?
say?
What is she
Yeah.
talking about? Why were we there? We just got 15 minutes that we can't get back. I think about probably way too much um, about what I'm going to say and how I intend it to land. Sometimes, and I think because I kind of tend to project manage things, I think people believe that people that know me know I have emotion, I can express emotion. Um, I think those that see me kind of in that project manager mode thinks like she's a robot and she just kind of goes.
ABC.
My gift and curse is being able to compartmentalize things, right? And for me, wanting to be, we're in a world that tells you to say less. And sometimes you should just say less. Sometimes, as much as I talk, I listen really well, and sometimes I say nothing. That also strikes fear in people for whatever reason. Like, JJ, you didn't say anything. I'm like,
Does.
because there's nothing to be said.
Especially when you give the eye. It's like,
I'm like, But when you look to say more, what is it that you're trying to say? We should not script things. And I don't script things. I just really think about what I want to say. And it's like, well, I've said that already. And, people are like, well, say it a different way. And it's just like, okay. But now I've said it 3 different ways and you still didn't get it. Like, so is it me?
Or is it you?
Or is it you? Are you intending to understand what someone is saying? Like for me, saying more is being thoughtful, even when I'm frustrated, even when I'm angry, because everybody wants to be heard, everyone wants to be acknowledged. But in grief, asking for the space and asking for what you need in grief is pivotal in you working the process of grief, because everybody wants to help, everybody wants to be there, everybody wants to do something. And I don't even know what I want because all of this is happening to me, with me, through me. I'm exhausted. And so asking for the space to just allow me to be. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. I literally remember saying to people, Jillian, what do you need? And I was like, I don't know. But when I do,
I'll let you know.
I'll let you know. I appreciate you checking in on me. I appreciate you love my mommy too. But you gotta let me, like, you just gotta let me be. And that's when I'm angry. That's when I'm, in grief. I just need a moment. And when you don't allow people their moment, especially when they've asked you for their moment, all you do is exacerbate it. It makes it worse.
Yeah.
So for me, the saying more is, I don't know exactly what I want. I know I will need something. allow me the space to figure out what that is. And that's kind of what it is for me.
So, like, before you actually even bother to say more, I won't even throw this and say think more.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it's okay to not know what you want to say.
Absolutely. It's
But
okay to not be okay.
yeah, just take
Yeah.
that time and take a step back.
Yeah.
Because personally, and I promise my listeners this, that I'm going to be very transparent with my flaws, going for it.
I have a list.
Oh, wow.
No,
She does. I'm sure she does. Mentally, though. But one of the things that, has happened in the last couple of weeks, especially with, these losses that have been hitting, is like, I realize that sometimes for me personally, I tend to do a word salad because I have to walk through the entire scenario to be able to explain myself. But you lose people that way.
Okay, I'm
And
processing something.
and sometimes that frustrates your listeners.
Sure.
Because whoever is receiving that's like, get straight to the point.
Yeah.
So how does someone who doesn't want to take space, wants to communicate, but has to word vomit before they get there, from a listener receiver perspective, how do you manage that to get to that point where you do not get frustrated and then, miss the conversation of how you can be there or impact the person?
I think that's more of that individual's understanding why they need to do all those things. Like figuring out what their process is and why they feel they need to share. They need to kind of walk it through with someone else. This is your grief process. You don't have to justify it to anybody. Right? There's something in that process that you may need validation or believe you need validation from somebody. Why? I think it's more, why do you think you need to process that way? Have you tried to process it a different way? And why do you think your process is not good enough?
Yeah, and I will answer that question because again, like in the introspection phase, I realized that I would be word vomiting because I want the person to get how I'm feeling and understand it without realizing that it's okay if they don't get it. It's my emotions. It's my feeling. It's my grief. I'm telling you what it is. If you don't get it, I can respect that you don't agree. I can say this is where I stand. I was telling someone this recently. Two wrongs could be right, two rights could be wrong.
Sure.
So it's okay if we don't. You actually taught me this. It's okay to not agree. We can just respect each other's differences. So I realized that the reason why I was word vomiting is to get you on my side, to listen.
But I think part of your process is understanding that no one is against you. They just really don't understand it, especially if they've never gone through it. And the more you attempt to explain, and that's where you become the word vomit, and it becomes like overwhelming for them, overwhelming for you. Now it's like, okay, now I feel
you trauma dumped.
Oh yeah, almost. I shouldn't have asked them how you feeling. You know what I mean? And that's fair because they're truly trying to ask, and a lot of this is rhetorical. It's like, how you feeling? Like, you walk down the hall and see somebody be like, hey, how you doing? You don't really want to know.
I want to know.
Okay, well.
Oh, well.
Just so you
we'll
know.
leave it there.
We'll leave it there. I mean, I ask the questions to the people I really want to know the answers to and answers from. So if I say to you, I've since asked you, how's your mother doing? How's your auntie doing?
Yeah.
I haven't asked you because I'm seeing how you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to ask about them because I'm not in daily engagement with them. I'm engaging with you more often than them, so I'm experiencing you.
So you get to see.
So I get to see it, and then I get the advantage of asking you a different question.
Yeah.
Right? And so people, when they pop in and it's like, hey, Frank, how you feeling? I don't necessarily know they want the deep dive. It's very surface on like, okay, I'm fine, or I'm managing, or I'm not great, but I'm working. it's super rhetorical. Like they don't really
want to know.
it's it and not everyone. So I'm not this person that hates other people. Maybe.
Okay, I will reserve. I will reserve my sentiments.
You should.
Yeah.
Um, but when you and I think sometimes you understand that some of this stuff is just transactional.
Yeah.
You know, people say, "How you doing?"
It's just transactional.
It's just a transaction. But then you may need to think about when someone does ask you, because you're in whichever stage of grief, you don't receive that as transactional. You think they're really asking you. So how you're processing, how you're receiving, I think maybe to your listeners, when you're saying to someone that has experienced loss, again, asking a different question, not how are you feeling, but maybe I, I learned this from a show that used to be on NBC. He would often ask, how can I help? And for me, it gives people pause. It's like, well, I don't know. And it gives them time to think really about what do I need in this moment? How can they help? And you leave that with them because we want this. We live in a microwave society. We want the immediacy of a response. And when we don't get that, people freak out. Like, well, why don't you know? Girl, what you mean? What do you mean? So I don't know. And I mean, like I said, 5 years later with Mommy, sometimes I still don't know. It's surreal to me that she's not here. So I'm just like, I walk by the mirror and I'll see her face, not my face, and be like, what you want, lady? Yeah. I don't believe it sometimes, but I don't in those moments when when I cry or I hear a song or I cook something and I smell it and it tastes like hers. That's still grief because I miss her, but I still have her. She's still tangible. So, depending on where you are in that journey, again, you may stay in a denial phase. You may stay in, this mourning where you're just kind of solemn. But again, therapy for our community is something people are now starting to kind of wrap their arms around. And therapy isn't only for grief. It is, it helps enable you with tools to navigate the grief. Yeah. And really navigating it for you and not everybody else, right? But it's also a space that once you kind of break through and work through that, because you don't get over these losses. That's the other thing I can. Well, you should get over it. I was about to get Listen, so I had a friend that had lost her mother, and I remember during the anniversary of her mother's passing, she would get really sad. So we would do something, spend the night by her house, and we would cook and everything. And I remember it kind of happening midweek at work. And somebody said to her, like, what's wrong? She was like, this is the anniversary of my mother's passing. And I think she had said, I don't know, it might be at the time, maybe 5 or 6 years. And this person was like, you should get over that. The way I swiftly had to grab her. People can see red. Listen, and I was just like, what? People can see. Yeah, it was wild. But again, the audacity that people purchase out here is crazy. But wow. So we don't ever get over these losses, right? So navigating those things, and once you've worked through to a point, because sometimes you regress and it's just like you have these big life things happening and then you realize, oh my gosh, my son is about to graduate high school and I know my mother's not physically going to be there to see that. That's what I will get emotional about. Yeah. You know what I mean? Watching the youngest, she loved all her grandsons, but he was the last, and she would play with him in a different way. She was retired, so she spent time like he has a different experience of her than my oldest. Those are the things that I mourn. Those are the things I grieve. So as you go through and navigate these things, asking for the space that you need. I know people won't understand. As long as you understand, it's fine. And like I said, getting through and working through your grief, therapy is there, but it's also there to celebrate things going really well and continuing that pattern as well. So I think in this conversation is while we're discussing grief, to know that while it feels like it's all happening to you all the time, there is some light
Yeah.
near the end.
Well, we're going to go more into it, but if you're enjoying the episode so far, make sure you like, subscribe, and also subscribe to the Same Old Podcast with Miss JJ.
And share it.
And share it as well. We will be returning again with a part 2 of this where we would continue and dive more into, JJ's experience with grief and some of the tools like that she's mentioned that our community, as well as anybody, actually can use and have access to. Absolutely. But until then, continue to be frank and continue to say more.